The fight against drug cartels in Mexico has been going on for a long time, and not very successfully. If you read the news, it seems that the gangsters are gaining the upper hand and taking control of more and more territories. It's no surprise that after decades of such confrontation, a special culture has developed around the drug war, and musicians play a significant role in it. In this video, we'll tell you how it happened that performers of Mexican chanson became an inseparable part of the local drug business, and why a single mistake can cost them their life. Well, let's begin. But before we start, a quick announcement. Our project team is looking for content creators. If you keep up with the news and know your way around the rap industry in the United States, and if you can write engagingly, get in touch with us via the email listed in the video description. We'd love to have you join our team. Payment details will be discussed privately. In the middle of February 2023, American media outlets reported news that readers unfamiliar with Mexican popular culture would probably take as a strange curiosity. Musicians who perform criminal-themed music received threats from a local gang, and very serious ones. The message on a banner discovered on February 10, 2023, by members of the band Grupo Arriesgado in front of a hotel read as follows, quote, "You are on foreign land. You have a few hours to leave Tijuana, or take your guns and radios and get the hell out to where you're allowed to sing your little songs. Because if you stay, you'll get screwed." The band Grupo Arriesgado is known for ballads praising the bosses of the Sinaloa cartel, the largest criminal organization in Mexico. However, they arrived on the territory of their patrons' main rivals, the Jalisco New Generation cartel, and they were immediately reminded of that. The performers canceled their concert and left the city, but left behind a bold message saying they plan to return, though without specifying exactly when. To understand how popular the criminal music genre, also called narcocorrido, is in Mexico, it's enough to know that restrictions against the genre have been discussed there for many years. For example, on April 7, 2023, a proposal was made to ban bus drivers and other public transport workers from playing such ballads while on the job. Politicians claim that these songs create a positive image of criminals, promote drug trafficking, and glorify crimes against women. And all of that is absolutely true. Such songs cannot be played on the radio, and some artists have even been blacklisted by the media. However, this doesn't affect either their popularity or the genre as a whole. Narcocorrido is music that truly cannot be separated from the concept of crime. But whereas in most of the world such songs are usually impersonal reflections on the lives of professional criminals, Mexican tracks are much more aggressive and straightforward. At the same time, they are usually written in waltz or polka rhythm, accompanied by guitars and brass instruments. And if you don't understand the lyrics, it can even sound quite charming. This genre originated from corridos, ballads that were very popular in the 1910s during the Mexican Revolution. Each of these songs was a vivid story about a hero's deeds, meant to reflect his best traits and glorify his actions. Back then, corrido songs served as a kind of musical newspaper. Performers traveled across the country singing about the feats of revolutionary heroes or government soldiers. Newspapers were believed to publish only propaganda, while the corrido singer carried only the truth. The revolution ended, but the genre, and the unquestioned trust in it, became deeply rooted in Mexican culture. In a beautiful, exotic sense, corridos are also called traditional Mexican story songs about the national hero Miguel Hidalgo. During the Mexican Revolution, corridos became a call to arms. The most famous of them, the world-renowned La Cucaracha, tells the story of a cockroach that ran out of marijuana to smoke. The troops of partisan General Pancho Villa sang it as they marched into battle. Corridos about smuggling existed as far back as the Prohibition era in the United States during the 1920s. Back then, songs were about tequileros who secretly transported alcohol across the border. But ballads about drug traffickers and their exploits appeared in 1974, and the first among them was Contrabando y Traición by Los Tigres. It tells the story of two partners in a dangerous business who betray each other. The song by the musicians from San Jose, California, became famous on both sides of the border. After an incredible rise in the 1950s and 60s, Mexico gradually slid into the crisis of the 1990s. And that was when drug cartels first began to make themselves truly known. For organized crime, any economic problems of the state are the most fertile ground. Not least because many young people cannot find decent jobs, which means they can easily be recruited into criminal ranks. prohibited smoking substances were used in rituals even by the Aztecs. Up until the 1980s, these substances were Mexico's main export. At that time, drug trafficking groups couldn't really be considered powerful forces. They were more like small family-run enterprises. Since the 1990s, after the downfall of the famous Medellin cartel of Pablo Escobar, and later the Cali cartel in Colombia, Mexican drug traffickers, who had previously worked under Colombian cartels, quickly came to the forefront. By the mid-2000s, these criminal organizations had turned into real states within the state, with entire armies of fighters armed with automatic weapons, armored vehicles, and even light artillery such as grenades and mortars. The unofficial anthems of these gangs became the ballads of NARCOCORRIDO. Mexico's population is about 130 million people. Over 60 million more Spanish-speaking citizens live in the United States. There is a huge market for traditional Mexican music, and the most successful performers literally bathe in luxury. However, to successfully write a ballad in the narcocorrido style, a musician must follow strict rules, nor risk serious trouble. Here's what Cristian Montes Garcia, leader of the group Los Poderosos de Culiacán, says, quote, "If you're just telling some real story in a song, you don't need permission. But if you mention a specific person, say, describing how he was hanging out with someone and something terrible happened, then you need to ask for permission, because people might ask you, and how do you know how it all went down?" Mexican narco-culture is the subject of separate academic research. It originated in the highland regions of the state of Sinaloa, where famous cartel bosses such as Joaquin Guzman, known as El Chapo, Ismael Zambada, and many others came from. The modern image of the Mexican criminal also comes from there. It always includes designer clothing, a cowboy hat, boots made of exotic animal skin, and an expensive car. A cartel member is expected to maintain the image of a man who leads a luxurious lifestyle and is ready to deal with his enemies in the most brutal way at any moment. Criminals have their own pantheon of saints. It includes, for example, the legendary bandit Jesus Malverde, who operated at the turn of the 19th and 20th centuries. Also in the state of Sinaloa, many drug traffickers quite literally pray to Malverde. In recent years, reports have increasingly appeared that some groups have even deified Pablo Escobar, turning to his spirit for protection. Among more traditional patron saints, the bandits honor Saint Jude Thaddeus, who is considered the protector of those in desperate situations. And of course, among criminals, the cult of Santa Muerte, the Holy Death, is extremely popular. It is believed that if you pray to her properly, she will grant your wish. The chapel in Culiacán is a very strange place. Alongside images of Jesus, it is decorated with marijuana leaves and the walls are covered with dollar bills. Although Malverde is worshipped not only by bandits, many people leave offerings before sending several kilograms of substances across the border into the United States. Narcocorrido also plays a huge role in gangster culture, and every self-respecting boss must become the hero of a cool ballad. This way, he not only raises his authority, but also lets young people know that by joining him, they will get a ton of money and become members of a brotherhood of brave fighters. That is why most narcocorridos are written on three main themes, which can roughly be described as cool cars and parties, the most beautiful girls love gangsters, and our enemies fear us because we have lots of weapons and know how to use them. It is also important to emphasize the nobility of the heroes in these songs. They never hurt ordinary people. In fact, almost every such ballad is created not only to please the boss's ear at his next party, it is an important part of his PR campaign. Narcocorrido can be compared to American gangster rap. All over the world, different variations of such criminal genres have emerged. In the favelas of Rio de Janeiro, drug-dealing gangsters throw parties in the style of belly funk, a genre similar to rap, but with a more powerful vocal delivery. Another similar genre is the Russian criminal chanson, for example, by performer Mikhail Krug. Mikhail Krug, just like Tupac and Chalino, was killed by gangsters from an organized crime group in 2002. These genres have one thing in common. All of them have been subjected to censorship. Narcocorridos are not played on the radio, yet this in no way affects their popularity. In some states, such songs are completely banned, and musicians face heavy fines for performing them. In 2017, Los Tigres had to pay 1 million pesos after they performed Contrabando y Traición in Chihuahua. However, despite the wild popularity of narcocorrido, the musicians themselves are often treated by the gangsters as service staff and are treated accordingly.
All of them have a secret language in them sometimes, or they're all a history of something that happened. And you pay somebody to make one for you, or somebody makes it for you, and then if you do a good corrido song for somebody, and the rivals will send somebody to kill you.
Really?
So like even the musicians are on either side of the cartel kind of groupings as well, which is pretty weird. I know, but it's
wow. So if you're for the wrong cartel, like if you make a song, you kind of have to like go into hiding,
or not play in any places where the rival cartels territories are.
Oh, Jesus Christ! Will they come to your territory to come get you if you?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. There's been a few high level singers, Mexican folk singers that got killed. For messing with girlfriends of cartel members or for singing the wrong song.
Here is a quote from Omar Valenzuela, a music producer. "My father sometimes wouldn't come home for several days because they wouldn't let him go. He and his bandmates would play for the cartel for days on end. One day he came home with a beaten up face. The band had no right to their own opinion. They had to stay until the boss released them. That's why he didn't want his children to become musicians. They listen to me, they like me, and they reach out so I can tell their story," explains Baldemar Cazares Perez, a singer from Sinaloa known as El Líder. Inspired by the work of Chalino Sanchez, he dreamed of performing corridos since the age of 11. But when Baldemar left his village to start this career, he didn't know who to write about and simply told stories from his own youth, much of which the future El Líder spent growing marijuana. Now he composes narcocorridos for mafia bosses. The first known murder of a narcocorrido performer occurred on May 16, 1992. That was when the famous singer Chalino Sanchez, known as the King of the Corrido, was killed. Sanchez was performing in a club in Culiacan, in the state of Sinaloa. During the show, he received a note from the audience, believed to contain threats. The singer frowned, slipped the note into his pocket, and kept singing. After the concert, the car in which he was returning to the hotel with his brothers was stopped by unknown men. They showed police IDs and asked Sanchez to come with them to speak with their superiors. After some thought, he agreed. The next morning, the musician's body was found near a farm on the outskirts of the city. He had been shot twice in the back of the head. Who killed the singer remains unknown to this day. Rosalino Sanchez was born in 1960 on a farm in the mountains of Sinaloa, where life seemed barely changed since the Wild West. At the age of 15, the future singer avenged the rape of his sister by shooting the man at a party and fleeing to Los Angeles. In 1984, his brother, who worked as a coyote smuggling migrants across the border, was murdered in Tijuana. These tragedies inspired Chalino to write his first song. At the time, he was serving a short prison sentence, where he met many men from similar rural backgrounds. Inmates told him gripping stories about marijuana smuggling. Sanchez began gathering material. He wasn't a great singer, but he turned out to be an excellent storyteller. Chalino became a sensation among Mexican immigrants in California, most of them poor rural workers like himself. A few months before the show in Culiacan, he had performed in the United States when a drunk man jumped on stage and opened fire with a pistol. Sanchez pulled out his own gun, and a shootout began. As a result, one audience member was killed and several others were wounded, including Chalino himself and the man who started the shooting. In the end, his life too was cut short by cartel violence.
I mean, Chalino Sanchez. You can say that's our Tupac. He's one of the major characters of the corridos because he started making like violent corridos. He was a real guy. Like every time he had a show, he was dressed up. One time they tried to shoot him over a girl, and he shot back and he killed the guy.
At the show?
Yeah, at the show. Because he was a real cowboy. He was like a real deal from Sinaloa.
The video that I saw shows him performing at the show. Apparently someone hands him a letter while he's performing. He's singing.
The legend says that there was a thread in the note that said that he was going to die. The handing the notes is very common because they always want shout-outs or they always asking for a song.
So that's why he accepted it.
In all the shows you see, there's people throwing notes or somebody handing the guy notes. But they do say that he did knew what was going on when they killed him. They made a couple corridos. One actually offended his family because the way they're portrayed in the corrido. And there's other corridos that they said that they killed him over some other things. He was a real deal.
Legend.
That's why, yeah.
Just an absolute legend.
Just a legend, yeah.
I saw a video recently of a musician. He was given a letter.
Another famous narcocorrido performer killed by gangsters was Valentin Elizalde Valencia. This singer, nicknamed the Golden Rooster by his fans, was also famous for composing soulful ballads about mafia bosses. Valencia and his driver were gunned down shortly after finishing a concert in the city of Reynosa, in the state of Tamaulipas, in 2006. It is believed that the musician paid with his life for daring to perform the song A Mis Enemigos, in which members of the Los Zetas gang, whose power in the state was strong, saw praise for their rival, the Sinaloa cartel. The song contains lines that can roughly be translated as, "Why do you play with me and risk your lives? One single strike is enough for me to win." and you're already in my sights. In addition, the hero's enemies are called Snakes. A year after Valencia, another well-known narcocorrido performer, Sergio Gomez, was killed on December 1st, 2007. He was kidnapped along with his bandmates. It happened the morning after a concert in the city of Morelia, in the state of Michoacán. The others were released almost immediately, but the body of 34-year-old Gomez was found a day later in the suburbs. Before his death, he had been horribly tortured and, according to one version, burned alive. Later, it emerged that members of one of the local gangs had made persistent offers to the singer to cancel the concert. He refused. What exactly Gomez did to anger the gangsters is unknown, but most likely it was also about his repertoire. And there are many such stories in Mexico, especially in the last 10 to 15 years. Narcocorrido performers have become symbolic figures, propaganda machines for one cartel or another. They make huge amounts of money, but they also risk being killed, because the murder of a popular artist severely damages the reputation of the boss who protected him. The surge of cartel violence began in 2006 when President Felipe Calderón declared war on drug traffickers. The cartels accepted the challenge. The battle has now been going on for 17 years. It is estimated that over 15 years, around 400,000 people have died, including gang fighters, Mexican and US police officers, and civilians. Armed with military-grade weapons coming from the same United States, the mafia offers fierce resistance to the authorities, controls entire regions of the country, and fights not only with the government, but also among themselves. In 2008, the land of Sinaloa was drenched in blood. During a military operation against the cartels, one of the Beltrán Leiva brothers, Alfredo, who was married to El Chapo's cousin, was captured. Guzman was suspected of betrayal. On May 8th, 3 cars drove up to one of his sons, Edgar, and opened fire. No fewer than 500 bullets were fired from Kalashnikov rifles. The narcocorrido 50,000 Roses tells the story of a grieving father who bought up every single red rose in Culiacán for the funeral. A few hours after Edgar's death, another 7 bodies were found in the neighboring city of Navolato. One of the victims was a police officer. The province of Sinaloa suddenly became a very dangerous place, including for musicians. And it was precisely from the mid-2000s that a surge in the murders of narcocorrido performers began to be recorded. Around 24 well-known musicians were killed. It seems that they are regarded as the main mouthpieces of gangster propaganda, not only by the authorities, but also by the criminals themselves. By the way, here's how it usually happens.
Behind me is a Mexican sicario.
What's the hardest thing you've had to do in your life that you're like, that was difficult?
Yo tenía que ejecutar a un vato el 2 de noviembre. Me dijeron, ese güey tiene que morir ese día. Si no lo matas, va a tener consecuencias. Lo cazamos, lo anduvimos cazando. Fue en un lugar enfrente de la Policía Federal, de que venía con su familia. Le pegan al vato porque se bajó el copiloto. Le pegan al vato y me subo al cofre del carro para no pegar a las personas de atrás. Pero lo más culero fue de que la Federal estaba enfrente. Pero ¿qué hizo la Federal? Nada más al no ver el Federal. Se fue. Cuando yo iba en la moto.
Have you ever accidentally killed a kid or a wife?
No.
Are you happy?
Sí, estoy feliz.
In this bloody clash, the cartel boss's love for narcocorridos sometimes plays a very strange role. In November 2022, it became known that one of the leaders of that very Jalisco new generation cartel, Ricardo Ruiz Velasco, was tracked down and arrested by the police thanks to a video clip recorded at his secret villa by musician Luis Conríquez. On June 25th, the musician participated in a grand cartel party that Ruiz organized at a ranch in the mountains on the border between the states of Jalisco and Zacatecas. Shortly afterward, Conríquez posted on his social media page a clip of the song Feats of Double R, glorifying Ricardo Ruiz, recorded during the gang's festivities. Operatives studied the recording, managed to identify where Velasco's villa was located, and placed it under surveillance. In August, the cartel boss was arrested during a meeting with other criminal authorities in the state of Guadalajara. However, this story has no happy ending. Immediately after Velasco's arrest, cartel fighters carried out a series of bloody attacks on police officers and civilians, after which the gangster had to be released. In Mexico, such incidents occur quite often. The declared war on the drug mafia in Mexico continues. New bosses replace the arrested ones, weapons still flow across the US border, and tons of drugs move in the opposite direction. It seems that the skeletal Santa Muerte has heard the prayers of many gangsters and turned the country's life into a real hell, and narcocorrido performers sing triumphant ballads about bandits bandits, make fortunes from it, and die at the hands of their heroes' enemies, seamlessly woven into the mad dance of death swirling over Mexico. Such episodes repeated all over Mexico. Armed groups split into smaller gangs after their leaders were arrested or killed. Their numbers grew and blood flowed like a river. But by 2014, the Beltran Leyva organization, exhausted by its war with Chapo Guzman, was destroyed by law enforcement, and for several years Sinaloa was at peace. However, on October 17, 2019, the military tried to capture El Chapo's son, Ovidio, in Culiacan, and ended up surrounded themselves. Clouds of smoke from burning vehicles rose above the city. 14 people died in the battle. Among them were innocent bystanders, and the scene resembled footage from reports about Syria or Iraq. Frightened citizens hid in stores. In the end, the soldiers had to release young Guzman following a personal order from the president himself. Here's a quote from one of the participants on the police side. "There had long been rumors that the Sinaloa cartel had more firepower than the government. It seemed like a myth, but now we know it's true. On October 17th, the group made it clear that it's stronger and more ruthless than the official authorities. Most of the weapons come from the United States. They threw all their forces into rescuing their guy." And of course, the very next day, a corrido about this event had already been written. That's all for now. Write in the comments what you think about this kind of music. Like the video and subscribe to the channel. See you all later.